Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've all seen the trailer for the Polar Patriots Warbond by now, and I, for one, got pretty excited for it. Then, the CEO posted a poll about whether or not they should release it due to the recent controversy with Sony and the PSN account linking. Well, luckily the majority voted yes, and we got it. As soon as it dropped, I went in, got everything I could ASAP, and honestly, I'm starting to wonder if that poll was just the CEO hoping that we would vote to postpone this, just so they could get a little more time to iron things out, because honestly, this seems to be the worst Warbond they've released so far. I've tried all the new weapons on Helldive difficulty, and don't get me wrong, I still manage to complete missions with all these weapons, but they just tend to make things a lot harder. You do have to compensate with support weapons and stratagems a lot more if you're planning on using pretty much any of these weapons from the new Warbond. So let's have a look at what we're working with here. First off, we got the AR-61 Tenderizer, and I gotta admit, this is the weapon I was looking for the most. And looking at the description, all signs were pointing in the right direction. A high caliber assault rifle with a restrictive magazine size, but more stopping power. I think this should have had at least medium armor penetration, because right now, I don't understand where this weapon belongs. It feels like it's just a clone of the regular Liberator, only with a smaller magazine size, a bit less recoil, and a slightly better tracking when aiming side to side. When fighting bugs, there's really no reason to use this weapon, because you'd be far better off using pretty much anything else, like the Liberator Penetrator or even the Adjudicator. Against bots, just don't take it, okay? It's pretty much the worst option you can pick. The only reason I could recommend this gun is because it adds a bit of diversity. So basically, if you're willing to shoot yourself in the foot just to have variation in the game, by all means take the Tenderizer. Also, quick mention, apparently the gun was supposed to be black, we can see that in the trailer, but due to some texture glitch it looks like it's green now. Now Arrowhead is aware of this and they said that they will correct it in the upcoming patches, so let's see how that works out. Just to quickly mention the Motivational Shocks, yeah, the booster doesn't really seem to affect gameplay much. I believe you're better off picking muscle enhancement, sprinting, vitality, or drop pod optimization. Let's move on to the SMG-72 Pummeler. This one's actually not bad. It's probably the only usable SMG in the bunch, and that's because of the staggering effect of the concussive shots combined with the lower rounds per minute. That makes it a pretty decent option if you want to run an SMG. And it's particularly good for those missions where you have to carry SSDs all across the map. Versus bugs, it works pretty well, not much to say there. The advantage is that you can shoot while running, so you can increase the distance between you and the enemy. Now versus bots, you could try to make it work by using the shield in combination with the SMG, but there are so much better other options out there that this is hardly worth mentioning. But again, you could give it a go just to spice things up with a little bit more variety in your builds. Now, onto the G14 Incendiary Impact Grenade. It's a decent grenade, honestly. At this point I'm not even sure what more they can do with the grenades. You can use the impact grenade to close bug holes, even fabricators. They have an initial explosion on impact and it leaves a small area of fire on the ground. Yeah, it's not that bad, but the reality is, again, I'm not sure where to place this. It feels like it could just replace the normal impact grenade, if you were running that before. Personally, I avoid impact grenades because the way the bugs tend to jump at you, at that point it just becomes more of a liability than something useful, you know? And against bots, well, fire doesn't really do much, so I think you're better off taking the EMS grenade instead. Okay, this is the one probably everyone is waiting for, right? The Plas-101 Purifier. It's on the last page, it's an energy weapon with a charge up time. It's gotta be way better than the Scorcher or the Punisher, right? It's got more damage, well, slightly more, but you know. Well, turns out that's not really the case. The weapon is actually pretty awful, unexpectedly so. The 50 extra damage does not compensate for that charge time whatsoever, which by the way is not short at all. I think this should have had done at least double damage to make it a viable weapon. Against bugs, just don't take it. It hardly kills anything. The AoE is so small that it just affects one, maybe two targets if you're lucky. And the fact that you constantly need to charge up your shot just gets you surrounded pretty fast. It's not good at all. Like, I don't get it. Against the bots, you can kind of make it work because it has the stagger effect to it, pretty much like the Scorcher does. But honestly, the Scorcher is simply better because you don't need to charge it. I don't know what more to say. I'm at a loss for words here because so far it seems like they needed a bit more time to balance this out. If we take a look at the trailer, it clearly shows the Purifier one-shotting the Striders, but in reality it takes several shots to take them out, so it kind of feels a bit misleading. But then I got to thinking, and I came to the conclusion that they probably shot this trailer some time ago, before they increased the Strider's resistance to explosive damage. Is the only way this makes sense, right? So, by that logic, they finished the Warbond, then they did 2 or 3 balance patches, then they released the Warbond without adapting it to the balance changes, and now that is why everything feels just so out of place. I mean, it's the only logical thing I can think of, and honestly, if I were to bet, I'd say my theory is right on the money. Anyway, last but not least, we have the P113 Verdict. I actually like this sidearm. I like the feel of it, the sound it makes, it does decent damage, it looks like it tries to copy the Desert Eagle in design. It's a pretty fun pistol to play around with. But again, it's not great. Now, what would make this thing pretty awesome is if they would make it do medium armor penetration. And I think it should. It should be medium armor penetrating because just hearing the sound it makes when it fires gives you that feeling that it should do more. But it doesn't, and it falls short. For bugs, it kind of works out. However, there are better alternatives like the Senator because it has medium penetration, or the Redeemer for the high rate of fire, or maybe even the grenade pistol to close down those bug holes from a safe distance, right? Again, it's hard to find a place for the P113 Verdict, and the only recommendation here is if you just want to add some variety to your loadouts. Against bots, it's probably even worse because realistically you can only deal with the small bots using the pistol, and even those can take multiple shots if you don't hit the domes. Honestly, that seems to be the whole quote-unquote theme of the Warbond, adding variety, because other than that, there's really nothing that shines here at all. I do have to say I love the new armor sets though, especially the one on the last page, the Arctic Ranger. It does look cool, in my opinion at least, and I just really like it. To summarize, this Warbond will not enhance your gameplay in any way. It will just add a bit of variety at the expense of a more difficult time in the field. I'm hopeful though that they will recognize their mistakes and change some of the stats on these, because so far it's hard to recommend anything in here. What are your thoughts on the new Warbond? Have you found a genius way of using any of these weapons effectively in combat? Let us know in the comments, and if you found the video useful, please drop a like and subscribe, as it really helps us out with the algorithm. Thank you for watching, see you guys in the next Hell Dive.
Okay,
Ready?
3, 2, 1, go! Oh,
Hell yeah!
that was weird.